I'm Adam from the Battle Ram blog.
And I'm AJ from For Eternia, and welcome to the war. Welcome to the Battle for Eternia. Welcome to Battle for Eternia, a Masters of the Universe podcast where past meets present, where vintage clashes with contemporary, where we discuss MOTU topics in the context of both historical and modern day. And today, being the premiere episode of the Battle for Eternia podcast, we thought it'd be appropriate to take this first entry and discuss the genesis of this podcast. The paths we took that led to this new union of the two websites, battleramblog.com and foreternia.com. Meaning, for any listeners unfamiliar with either side of this Battle for Eternia dynamic, in this first episode, we will delve into how this fandom penetrated our hearts as children, and then take a stroll, a historical walkthrough into the inspiration, creation, and growth of both battleramblog.com and foreternia.com websites. So, Adam, it's a pleasure to be on with you today, sir. And I'm excited to discuss this because for everyone listening at home, we didn't pre-screen our conversation at all. So,
yeah. So, I mean, it's really great to be on here, get to kind of meet you for the first time face to face. I know we've been chatting a little bit behind the scenes, but yeah, if we mess it up too bad, we can kind of blame it on that. Like we don't have a script. We're just winging it.
Yeah, this is good. If it's rough around the edges, that's why. But we promise we're going to do our best, and we're going to do our best to be accurate too. So if we do get something wrong, please don't crucify us. So I think we're going to start out with, how did this passion for MOTU ignite in us as children, in the beginning? And Adam said before we recorded that I could go ahead and start, so I will. So Adam, how MOTU started with me, it was Christmas of 1982. Now, before Christmas in 1982, the toys that I was into was, plastic dinosaurs, because I don't know about you, but like every kid that I knew of always had plastic dinosaurs. We love dinosaurs, right? It was just, did you have plastic dinosaurs?
Those, you probably had the Imperial ones, right? Those little Imperial dinosaurs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had like the two-headed kind of dragon monster, so it was in the same bin as those dinosaurs.
And I think they were cheap for our parents.
Yeah.
But other than that, my toys before 1982 were all space themed. I had like Star Trek Megos with the little Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock with the cloth clothing. I think I had that because my father was such a huge Star Trek fan, and like parents, I'm a dad. Are you a dad?
I'm a dad. Yeah.
Okay. So what we try to do, it doesn't always work, is try to instill the things we love, obviously, into our kids. And so that's probably why I got those toys. I got Battlestar Galactica toys. It was like a Cylon ship and a little starfighter. And then Star Wars, Before MOTU, it was Star Wars. Me and my brother, I have a brother that's 2.5 years older, and we loved playing Star Wars. It was more him than me, but it's all we had. And we had a Death Star play set that was really, really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And it had a trash compactor and everything on the bottom, when you could put Han and Leia and Chewbacca in the trash compactor and start like cranking it and closing them in between. It was great. And it came with a little trash compactor monster too.
That's awesome.
But that's all I knew. And then Christmas 1982 happened for me, and that's when I got Masters of the Universe. I got Castle Grayskull, and I think I got the entire wave, the entire eight-back wave. I think so. I think it all came at Christmas. There might have been one that came afterwards. I don't know. It's so hard to remember. Be honest with you, Adam, I can't even remember if I asked for it or did my parents just buy it, out of a whim, I mean, I don't remember asking for it, but I'm not sure. It was like so long ago. Um, but here this was, and I'm being that prototypical kid. I looked at my Star Wars guys and they were so like puny compared to these, masters of the universe. And for me, it just captured my imagination, and they were so evil looking too. I meant the face of Skeletor Castle Grayskull, right? And it was such an exciting thing, and then it was like demonic and it was metal. And be honest with you, my mother, she became a heavy born again Christian like a couple years later, and I think if MOTU happened like in 84 or 85, she would have never bought it for me. She would have said, this is Satan's toys, but,
Right.
but fortunately it was 82 and I got everything, and my parents were like on the cusp of getting a divorce, and that really like broke my heart because I was really young, and maybe it was get me all this stuff to sort of make me feel better in regards to, the breakup. But I fell in love with these toys, and it was, I think, and feel free to interject as I just brainstorm on this stuff.
Yeah.
I think in 1982 was also like the premiere year for sword and sorcery, because I don't think, if you look at He-Man and then you look at the peak of movies, Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Earl Jones, I mean the good one, the rated R one,
the first one,
yeah, the one we couldn't watch because it had a nudity, and had lots of nudity and lots of violence. We could watch the second one, Conan the Destroyer, but that one wasn't as good. But I don't think sword and sorcery peaked any higher with that in He-Man than 1982.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty strong year for it. Like around that time, you also get like the Beastmaster. I forget when Fire and Ice came out. Sometime around there, maybe a little earlier, but
maybe somewhere around there. Oh, I love and just the gorgeous artwork of Frank Frazetta and all those Conan novels and the Savage Sword of Conan comic books. But mainstream, right? He-Man. I mean, I know He-Man has that science fiction element, that fantasy, but it's still kind of sword and sorcery in a way.
Yeah. I know when they were developing it, like they mentioned Frazetta, they mentioned Conan, they mentioned Star Wars, but I feel like it's heavier. At least like when it started out, it was much heavier on the sword and sorcery than on the science fiction.
Yes, I would agree. Like with those early mini comics and stuff. Yeah, and it was also not just the pinnacle year for sword and sorcery, but it was the pinnacle. It was the beginning, 1982. This was Arnold Schwarzenegger's first film that he ever headlined, Conan the Barbarian, where suddenly everything was about muscles and bodybuilding. Where our biggest action stars, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, right? To some degree. Yeah. That our big superheroes in movies had these muscles, and it feels like just He-Man was at the beginning of it. Did they help start it? I don't know, but they were certainly at the beginning of it, because Conan and He-Man were both at that same time where it felt like just larger than life male heroes was going to like dominate everything for the next 10 years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even outside of sword and sorcery, like for the rest of the 80s, like Predator and Rocky, basically all of these, Rambo, all these movies, the dude was always, he had a bodybuilder physique.
Yeah, that was like our movie stars, and Arnold Schwarzenegger became the biggest movie star in the world, and so it was an interesting time, and I always wonder if He-Man became a catalyst of it. But I guess back to my toy collecting, so it was just brand new, right? in 1982. This is when it was all just kind of emerging, and I thought these toys were magnificent, and I immediately, I stopped playing with the rest of my toys. I became obsessed, and I actually traded my Star Wars stuff later in life for just more He-Man stuff as a kid. A friend wanted more Star Wars. I wanted more He-Man. I didn't care if it was duplicates. We traded. And this just had a magnificent impact in my life. It made me exercise my imagination, because there was no storyline at first. And I know we got those mini comics, but anyone who's, got them in 1982 or is familiar with the mini comics knows that those really weren't comics.
Yeah.
I mean, it was art and then a couple paragraphs of reading. And when you're a little kid, that was like too much reading. Later,
right. Yeah.
Later they became more comic book, panel and some dialogue, another panel and dialogue. But in the beginning, yeah. And so I looked at some of the pictures, but I just went into playing, and I was so fascinated with just creating this whole narrative, this whole adventure. And I would even jot down, Adam, where I left off. Like if I was done playing, I would jot down notes that this happened in Eternia this day, so I could resume the next day, and continue with my storylines. They would be so lavish. And since I didn't know what I was doing, like when I first got Manny Faces, I thought he was a bad guy. I thought he was a bad guy. He had that robot face. He had that villain, the monster face. And I hadn't, or that Filmation episode hadn't premiered yet, and I'll get to that in a second. So I had a point where, Manny Faces was working for Skeletor, and then he ends up killing Skeletor and takes over Castle Grayskull. So yeah, I just have all these elaborate memories. So it was just wonderful for me that there was just enough there to create our own story or our own lore. And then what really cemented it for me, turned that thing into cement and hardened it, was the Filmation show, the He-Man and Masters of the Universe. Because I don't know about you, Adam, I didn't know it was coming. I mean, there was no internet back then. There was no commercials in regards to, I mean, I remember when I'd come home from after school, I'd never, sometimes cartoons would just appear. You would never know if there's going to be a schedule change. It used to be Woody Woodpecker, and suddenly it's something else. And they would never give me a heads up or anything like that. And my parents, when Filmation debuted, the He-Man and Masters of the Universe, my parents had split up by then. So I was a latchkey kid. And I would go home after school with my older brother. And what would we do, right? We grab a snack, and we park ourselves in front of the TV after school. And I remember that one day where I turned it on and I saw Mer-Man, and I froze. And then I saw He-Man, and I believe at the time it was Tila's Quest. And it was surreal. I couldn't believe what I was seeing on the screen was the toys that I've been in love with. We were used to all the time, right? Toys being developed, Star Wars and stuff being developed based on properties, movies, TV shows. I think, do you remember the old show Starsky and Hutch?
Yeah, I don't know if I watched it too much, but yeah, I remember it.
But they even make toys after that, or Dukes of Hazzard, Knight Rider, But this was the first time, and of course we know the history, but this was the first time I saw that something that was a toy, not a movie, became a show. And it totally threw me off guard, and I ended up loving that show. And this might be sacrilege to you, I even loved some of the animation models better than the vintage figures. For some reason, it just was like, some of them were just perfect for me. And that really has cemented my love for Masters of the Universe that, still carries on to today. And that was the 1-2 punch. And then as we grew older, I kind of, like, you're all in when you're a kid, right? And when that happened, And then as we get older and go through life, it's a little up, it's a little down, I'm meeting girls who I'm dating, you're focusing on that. And then, I'm looking for more mature stuff. But, there's Cartoon Network and they're replaying He-Man. I'm going to watch some episodes, and, some DVDs come out, and, some classic figures come out, and so I've been maintaining my fandom ever since. It's been a love story for me. And clearly, my friend, which we'll get into the websites a second. I mean, next year I'm only celebrating 5 years. You're going to be celebrating 10 years. So clearly, it was a love affair for you. So I can't wait to hear your story. What was your beginning with?
I mean, same year as you, 1982.
What? Really?
I didn't know about them. I know I didn't ask for them because it came as a total surprise. I'd never seen anything like them. The toys I had before, it was just kind of a random collection of leftovers from older siblings, or the occasional, like, I think I had like a toy tank, and some dinosaurs, and just like a playground type stuff. So nothing super special. So it was either my birthday or Christmas of '82. I got the first 4 figures. So He-Man, Skeletor, Man-at-Arms, Beast-Man. So the earliest 4. I was blown away. It was kind of like you. I poured through those mini comics, or mini storybooks, if you want to call them that. And like you, it was a little too much reading for me. So basically, I would study the images. I'd like go through very carefully every page, but I just get a little bits and pieces from the actual story. But yeah, I didn't get Castle Grayskull and other figures until the next year. I know Castle Grayskull I got in '83. I think Battle Cat and Battle Ram and Mer-Man and some other, like, Manny Faces, Ram Man. Those were all in '83 for me. A big thing for me, I just remember, was the box art, though. Like getting Castle Grayskull, getting Battle Ram, and just I didn't have a frame of reference for the artwork on there. I didn't know who Frank Frazetta was. I didn't know they were trying to go for a kind of a Frazetta feel on that artwork. I just knew, like, this is amazing. How does a human being come up with this artwork? So I kept those as long as I could, but of course, your parents don't let you keep giant boxes from toys forever.
Oh, you actually tried, though.
I tried, yeah. I didn't want to get rid of them, but
Wow, you had the foresight, I mean, not just in love with the artwork itself, but I mean, I think none of us really hung on to the packaging back then. Do you know what I mean? So, and it was a shame because the artwork was gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you really latched onto that, at a young age,
Yeah, I probably played with them a little weird. Like, I wasn't, like, I definitely didn't bash the toys around, like make them, bash them together. I was more of like looking at them very closely, just studying their features. When I had battles, it was more like I would set them up, carefully, like across from each other, or maybe I'd have the battle ram, fire at them from across the room, but not like I wanted to keep them nice.
Oh, so do you mean like how some people set up? I guess it's like Revolutionary War figurines to set up a battle scene,
right? Yeah,
another. You kind of did that where they were stationary and
a little bit more like that, yeah. Or if I did, move somebody, was very, it was kind of deliberately, because I didn't want, like, because I'd have friends who would play a little rougher, and their figures were always like scratched up, and chewed up, and I was like very careful with mine.
Yeah, I was careful with mine too, but not as that much. But I always tried, like, I would see the commercials and they're playing in the water, in the sand, in the dirt, and I'll be like, no. These aren't going outside. Yeah, they'll be staying in my room. But it did have a little wear and tear. So but do you still have your vintage figures?
No, I don't have anything from when I was a kid. sadly.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think, yeah, by the time I left home, I was like, I just wasn't thinking about it, and so I didn't preserve anything. I wasn't in the space where I was like, I was trying to keep anything from childhood back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did. The cartoon, it caught me by surprise too. I was not expecting that. I think the first one I watched was Diamond Ray of Disappearance, which is great because Skeletor intros all of these villains for you.
Yeah. Triclops. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I somehow missed that one. I must have like started watching on a Tuesday or something, and I missed that
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would watch it whenever I could. I had to fight for because I had a bunch of brothers and sisters. So some people wanted to watch reruns of the Monkeys or Scooby Doo or whatever. So when I could get it, though, I'd watch
The Monkeys. I remember the Monkeys.
it.
So, how many brothers and sisters?
I've got 9 actually. So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
just
amazing.
a
Wait,
huge number.
you have 9, so it's 10 total.
So it's 10. Yeah, I'm one of the 10. So
Wow, I only had 2. But my sister has 9 kids. So
wow.
yeah, I don't know how she does it. Don't know how she does it.
Yeah, we have 1, so that's you can tell it didn't. I didn't take that lesson of having. I was like,
Yeah.
just one will be fine.
And this sister that I'm talking about, I had one which was a brother. My sister was my father remarried, and
Yeah.
I got a stepsister, and I consider her my sister now. So
Yeah.
but wow. So so you guys, then you must have got a lot of hand-me-downs then.
A lot of hand-me-downs. Most of the He-Man stuff was mine because I was at just the right age.
Yeah.
I think a couple of other siblings might have had 1 or 2, but they were mostly they were from me.
That is awesome. I wish I had a big family. In regards to your family, is anyone aware that you're running this website, or is it kind of okay? I didn't.
Yeah. Like, and when I did the book with Pixel Dan, that's kind of when that's I did because I wasn't like advertising it like because I was thinking my thought was they don't really care about He-Man. It wasn't their thing. But when I was able to help with the book, then I thought, okay, here's something I can kind of share. So I got my mom a copy of it, and
it kind of legitimizes it. It's
right,
like,
yeah,
see, I mean, now you're a published. Well, why wasn't your name on the spine as well? I guess it didn't work out that way. But as far as I remember remember reading, you contributed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I did quite a lot. Some of it was just out of necessity, just because there were deadlines that we had to complete, and Dan could not do everything. So I ended up doing, like, I wasn't going to do, like, I wrote about half of the classics section. I wasn't originally going to do that. It was just a time thing. We ran out of time, so I helped with that.
Yeah, I was hoping I would see, like, a with. You ever see the by and then with
Right,
so and so and so and so? But
yeah.
Instead, I think I only found your name in the middle in a different, like, thanks to or something. I forget what that page reads like.
Yeah, it's in the table of contents. They have like the individual authors there too. And there were other people who, like, somebody else did a lot of the Princess of Power section. So it was a joint effort.
Yeah, it looked like a collaborative, and then there was a lot of other additional thanks to different people. I think I remember seeing Ted Biaselli on there and some other people. So it was a big collaborative.
A lot of fans. Yeah, a lot of fans, like, they let Val and Dan fly over to their town and go in their house and set up cameras and take pictures all day of their collections. So a lot of that kind of thing too.
What was that like when you got that book, by the way? I mean,
it was exciting. Yeah, I was watching, like, I had the tracking on it, and I was like every day, like, watch, okay, refresh, when's it getting here?
And I can't believe they went for the classics, to be honest with you, because that book would have been thick enough already if it was just centered, on the vintage years. And then maybe like New Adventures and I was surprised, but yeah, I have that book in hard copy and digitally. So, except the digital, I don't know if you've noticed the scans aren't too great on the digital.
No, yeah, I've got the digital too, and it's a little low res. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate. It's very hard to read. I thought it would be very useful, and it's hard to read that way. So I often just still go back to the book and so forth. So
yeah.
So and that's pretty much what clinched it. Was it just again the vintage toys and the show, and then you were in?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Like I wasn't like I watched the show religiously, but one thing I didn't like the Prince Adam thing as a kid because to me He-Man was He-Man, and um it felt like I was just always waiting for the Prince Adam part at the beginning to get out of the way because I wanted just to see He-Man.
I get that.
Yeah. And I get that some people really like, and obviously the transformation sequence is great and it's iconic. There were just a couple of things about the cartoon that didn't totally gel with me, but I would watch it whenever it was on.
Yeah, a lot of people have felt that way. I think they prefer the Barbarian He-Man, especially the ones that were playing with the toys, a year before, and there was that campy tone. Some people didn't like the inclusion of Orko. They thought,
Yeah, I didn't like Orko at the time. I like him now, though. And I think it's because I'm a parent, and Orko's this childlike character, so I have a lot more patience and affection for Orko now.
Well, be honest with you, even though I love the Filmation cartoon, I wasn't in love with the whole Prince Adam, Clark Kent, Superman kind of dynamic as well. I do believe that was originally, I know people point to the comics as it first appearing there, but I believe in Lou Scheimer's book, it really came out of their idea first. I don't know if it was Michael Halperin or something, but they were working kind of in tandem, I think. And I don't know, it was Lou Scheimer's, I believe he was kind of saying that it was their idea. So.
Yeah, well, the first appearance was in those DC comics, like the full-size DC comics that came out in '82.
But he was saying they were working on it prior to, and working with DC and showing.
Right. Yeah.
I think. So.
So I know when marketing guy Mark Ellis was pitching like to the retailers, like, oh, we've got this new He-Man line. And he would kind of just make stuff up to try to sell it. like, oh, why would kids want to get this? And like, oh, didn't we tell you there's going to be a little comic book included for free with the toy, which they hadn't planned on doing. So they had to do that after he said that. And then like some other retailer said, oh, well, kids, this is aimed at little kids. They're not big readers. So, oh, did I mention we're going to do a cartoon as well? So he had to go and find, talk to some animation studios. So I think I think they were probably, those conversations were all happening around the same time, but it took obviously a lot longer to do a cartoon than the comics.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So, but, and for the record, by the way, if Adam and I ever disagree on history, he's probably right. Adam's probably right. And I'm the one who's probably wrong. If we're remembering it two different ways, because Adam is the guy in the know. He's probably forgotten more MOTU history than I've ever remembered. So, so let's just caveat that.
I have been wrong before. I'll just say that.
What? I don't believe it, sir. All right. So, that was our fandom as children. And obviously, we've carried the passion through our lives. And then this passion drove us for different reasons at different times to create websites. So, Adam, do you want to get into, since this is really a representation of emerging a union of our two websites. And by the way, for anyone who sees the logo on the top of the screen, Adam created that. That's his graphic talent. So, do you want to get into how did battleramblog.com come to be?
Yeah, so that basically I started out as an adult fan on He-Man.org, but it was kind of late. Like some people started there, like late 90s, early 2000s. I didn't get into it until like 2012, um, which was it basically it came about because we had our son. He was of an age where I was trying to find cool toys for him. I was looking for something that he wanted that I couldn't find. It was looking on eBay, and then I just I remembered He-Man. It's like, oh, I wonder what's on eBay for He-Man, and that was the thing that sucked me into everything. Um, so then I wanted to learn more about it, so I got into He-Man.org. So I basically back in those days there was a lot more conversation about history. I think nowadays it's I think most of the conversation revolves around what's coming out now, like what's the latest Origins, what's the latest Masterverse.
What have you done for us lately?
Right, right. And back then, I think there'd been a lot of dry spells where there was no new product, so people had just there. But part of the conversation evolved like, let's talk about deep history and figure out where things came from and who worked on what. So there was some of that there. I was learning some of the history of where these figures came from. There was other websites. There was like Grayskull Museum, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
There was, of course, the Power and the Honor Foundation. They had, I think, they had just done their book back then. I didn't get it right away. It took me a few years to get that one. But there was like all these sources. But my thing was, I would try to document everything I was learning. Just little bits and pieces of things here and there. But there wasn't like take Mer-Man. There wasn't the full story of Mer-Man, like from who designed him and what were the early concepts and what were the changes that were made to him, and the whole. You couldn't go anywhere and find everything from the first concepts to the comic appearances and uh, the different variants of Mer-Man. It wasn't kind of there. So
Can I ask you a
I
quick
yeah.
question? When you were documenting this information, what was that for? Just for personal knowledge, or
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah, just for personal knowledge. Like I started doing that. I didn't have like a site. I just like would email myself notes, or I'd
Hmm.
like keep a Word file full of information. I'd save images in folders. It was just because I wanted to know it. Like, I don't know. That's I
That's
wasn't
interesting.
trying to do anything with it.
Yeah, that is really an interesting genesis of it. I just yeah, that's really cool. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But it eventually it occurred to me like, oh, you can just get a free site on WordPress and you can organize your research that way, and with images, and then you don't have to like have all this disorganized, janky Word files and things on your laptop. So that's kind of why I started doing it. I wasn't trying to, you know, uh, change anything or uh, kind of rock the boat. I just wanted to document things. Um,
That's
but
interesting.
yeah.
Rock the boat. Do you think you rocked the boat?
Well, no, I don't. Maybe that's the wrong term. I
Okay.
just,
Okay.
yeah, like I wasn't trying to be like, I don't know, a name in the fandom. Like,
A leader of the community.
right.
Right. Oh,
Yeah. I was just trying to, I wanted to document this stuff because I needed to know it. That was it.
it was fun. It was a hobby, and yeah.
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 Yeah. So I did Mer-Man is the one I did first because he's kind of my favorite.
Is he?
Yeah, yeah. He's as far as characters go, his figures. Yeah, he's my favorite.
Have you? I think I saw you like selling some Masterverse figures for a while there. I'm like, is he getting rid of all his Masterverse figures? Have you checked out the new Eternia Mer-Man?
I've seen it. Yeah, I don't have it. But
Oh,
yeah, I've seen it.
yeah, it is. It is my favorite Mer-Man, and those eyes are just. There's no way it's going to
Yeah.
come on screen. And I have him on a seahorse behind me, an Aquaman seahorse.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, just you saying it's your favorite character. I was just wondering if you had this one, because for me,
Yeah.
it's the best representation I've ever seen.
This is the one that I have that's within reach. Is the
Okay,
classics
the
version.
classics version. Yeah,
But I like pretty much every version of Mer-Man I like.
yeah.
I don't have a lot of Masterverse. I do have some Origins.
Okay.
So yeah, it kind of basically I did a few articles like that, and it kind of turned out okay. I wasn't unhappy with it, so I shared it. And then Val Staples reached out to me because he liked what I was doing. He wanted to kind of cross promote it on He-Man.org. So when you get that kind of you start working with other fans, that's kind of your motivation to keep going, right? Because you're getting positive feedback and like, okay, well, I might as well just keep working on this. People seem to like it. So kind of just kept doing that for 10 years.
And just like that, you haven't stopped, huh?
Yep, pretty much.
Has the 10 years flown by? I know you're reaching 10 years this summer, right? I believe.
Yeah, in August.
In August. Wow. I mean, was there any sort of, this must have, obviously you got a lot of great interviews here, so that you're building your website must have been a catalyst for that, right? Because you had that behind you to approach creators and say, I'm Adam from Ram Blog. And they probably already know what it is. And it probably just opened doors for you to speak to all these great creators like the late Mark Taylor. So it must have been really a door opener for you,
Yeah, it kind of was, and I did it a little bit strategically. Like I didn't try to interview anybody until I had a good number of articles out, so I could point to, okay, I've got a website. I'm not just some rando. Like this is a legitimate site that people go to. And then I started with Ted Mayer because he did the Battle Ram, and I love Battle Ram blog. I love Battle Ram vehicle. So that it was very interesting talking to him. But I thought if I can talk to Ted, then I knew Ted was friends with Mark, and that would be my door to talk to Mark. And then from there, you kind of point to I've talked to some of your former coworkers. You could get a lot more. You can kind of snowball from there.
That must have been exciting.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
Do you do your interviews live, or do you just text back and forth, email back and forth, question answer?
Most of them are like email question back and forth. I did some live for the book because I did additional ones for the Pixel Dan toy guide. And it just depended on what their preference was. Some people just wanted to talk on the phone. They didn't want to type out a bunch of answers to some geek online. So they'd rather have an hour phone call and get it over with. So yeah, a little bit of both.
It's just amazing and amazingly consistent, because you said you just trucked along for 10 years and there were no significant like big events other than the book or anything like that. Anything that you can point to that you're like, this was a turning of the page for me, or
yeah, there's some things like I have to go to my site to like, what else have I done? there's an about page, like, because the book was huge. That was in like 2018. I think we started that, or maybe even 2017. Other things like Mundo Masters, like the Spanish magazine, they reached out to me. They wanted to translate some of my stuff for their magazine, or I think I did maybe one or two articles just for them. Oh, the other big thing was the Netflix, the Toys That Made Us.
Yeah.
They reached out to me, their production team, for background. Basically, background on the history, some pointers on who they should be talking to for that. So I was really excited about that when that happened.
Why didn't they put you on camera?
I think probably the people that they did pick are probably better. They had more TV presence on camera. I'm sure that was it.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. You would have been great. Well, all right. So I guess maybe it is my turn, and this would be for
yeah.
I think ForEternia.com is a tale of two stories. It's sort of like, BC and AD, before Christ, and is AD after death? Is that what it stands for?
Anno Domini or something, like Year of Our Lord or something like that.
There you go. Much smarter than me. So, but for my tale of two stories, it pivoted, before the closing of He-Man.org and after the closing of He-Man.org. So in the beginning, prior, when He-Man.org still existed, ForEternia.com was created, and I can hear the groans already, was created in support and love for the Masters of the Universe Revelation Netflix series. And let me start off with, I get a lot of people do not like that show. They did not like that show at all. And I respect everyone's opinions. I have nothing but love for anyone who didn't like the show. I was one of the people who really, really enjoyed that show. I really loved, especially the second half. I mean, I just reveled in like these long monologues, this Shakespearean like dialogue, almost the crazy stuff, like witnessing the death of God. You know what I mean? This was so adult, and somehow it appealed all to my sensibilities. And plus, it carried on storylines that I've been waiting to see resolve since the Filmation cartoon of the 80s, especially, Tila becoming the sorceress. And for me, and the voice cast, Lena Headey, Mark Hamill, I mean, it was a star-studded cast, and I ended up loving the show. But as a lover of the show, there wasn't many places I could go in regards to expressing my love for the show. If I turned to YouTube, I would, look for certain videos that maybe, talking about the plot points and so forth. All of them kind of came up that, it's woke, or Kevin Smith lied, or killed our childhoods, or something like that, So I couldn't turn to YouTube. And then in Facebook, it would be even worse, where you would post in Facebook, well, I really like the show, and these are the reasons why. And next thing you know, I would get replies to my own posts, how wrong I was. And even some that told me, did the gatekeeping thing, that I wasn't really a real fan, even though you just heard me explain my story in 1982, but somehow I wasn't a real fan. And it also somewhat occurred, not as badly, but on He-Man.org. And I've been a member. I had 2 accounts on He-Man.org for the last 20 years. I donated to Val on both of them, a few $100s, so as a supporter. And in regards to Masters of the Universe Revelation, it was really polarizing. And it seemed like people really loved it, or they really hated it. And what was really sad to me, and they had to create, you probably remember this because you were on there, they had to create a positivity thread.
Yes.
where because people felt like they couldn't talk about Masters of the Universe Revelation in a positive way without being criticized or attacked. And still, even if you would comment in the positivity thread, some people, it was like an itch they had to scratch. Some people who hated the show felt like the need to come over there on the positive thread and say, you're stupid, kind of thing. So what really got to me was not all of that, because I actually would challenge people in debates. You know, I would have challenged different ideas of how Tila behaved in, you know, the Filmation cartoon, or in regards to, you know, can He-Man only transform with a power sword, or can other people? And I would use different episodes as support for my argument. And my key was always, you know, even though people sometimes would get rude, I would always engage in the conversation. I would kill them with kindness. There's no way I'm getting rude with you, especially over something like this, right? But what I found really sad, and I got some instant messages and so forth, it seems like some people, was it Facebook, was it He-Man.org, some people would come in as new fans, either as brand new fans or fans that loved Masters of the Universe when they were a child, but hadn't engaged with the franchise since they were a child. And suddenly their passion was reignited after seeing the show. So they would come in and they're excited to talk about it. They got chewed up some, and then they left. And I was like, this is really, I mean, even if you didn't like the show, this has been a good opportunity for, you know, our fandom to grow, because that's the one thing that a lot of He-Man fans are always concerned of is this franchise going to die with us, right? Or is it going to continue and live on? So that made me sad, and that was ultimately my decision to go ahead and create ForEternia.com. You know, it wasn't what you would call a safe space, because I was always for, and we have a community forum there now, I'm always for positive and negative reactions. As long as you're not calling each other names or something like that, and you're being constructive, you know, not everyone's going to like everything. And that's the wonderful thing about Masters of the Universe. There's so many iterations for us to appreciate. You got New Adventures, don't like that? You got 2000 the next. You got the DC Comics, you know, you got the CG Kids show, which is totally, you know, quite starkly different from what we're used to. There's something for everybody. So I created this just in my support of the show. And what was really rewarding was, not only did I meet a lot of fans who loved Masters of the Universe Revelation, but also the creators reached out to me because of it. You know, like Ted Biaselli came and created an account and started answering people's questions and comments and replying to some of those. Kevin Smith thanked me. So it wasn't something I was looking for. It was more me just showing my appreciation, and an unforeseen benefit was they showed appreciation back, which I was really excited for. I think, and so that made me feel good. And that was supposed to be the extent of Masters of the Universe. I mean, of ForEternia.com was Masters of the Universe Revelation, any potential sequels, the Masterverse figures, which I sort of expanded to not just Revelation figures, but finally New Eternia and other stuff like that. But other than that, I stayed away from most other news. You know, I only focused on the things that interested me, because He-Man.org, He-Man.org was there. He-Man.org had everything. You know, it had a news page when it was fully running, and it had a community forum, and it had all this history, right? So I figured I was just going to run in my little space here. And once in a while, someone would ask me, you know, hey, AJ, why don't you report on other things? And I'm like, oh, you know, maybe one day. But, you know, I was just doing what really got my gears going. Then came the announcement. That He-Man.org was closing. Yeah. And it totally caught me by surprise. It caught so many of us by surprise. Be honest with you, I always thought He-Man.org was going to last forever. Kind of like the org name. I thought maybe Val one day would retire, but you know, the org would live on with new ownership or new people running it. I always thought it was more of like a public library for fans, and it was just always going to exist in one form or another. Never expected to close. And Val's got his reasons for, I'm not here to criticize that at all, but it's just was my, rightly or wrong, that was my expectation. I just always thought it was going to be there, you know?
Yeah.
And when it closed down, and so abruptly, right? And so quickly, people started looking for a home. There were fans without a home. And I suddenly saw an influx come over into into our community forums. And they were saying, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you fix that? Hey, can you change that? And I'm like, absolutely. You know, some people might have been, I was like, if you guys think there's different ways I could, you know, make this site better, I will. And I started making changes based on their recommendations. And I created a he-man.org kind of little badge that, you know, people can collect and sort of show their support and love for and honor he-man.org now that it was closing. And as I was doing this, it felt like there was now a void. And suddenly I came across a turning point where I was like, you know, now there is not a main resource, at least for news in regards to Masters of the Universe fans. I mean, it's gone. There's maybe you could find pieces here on Facebook and pieces here on YouTube. I sort of felt like that. I almost felt like that I had a responsibility to sort of that maybe For Eternia is more than what I like, or should be more than what I like, and should be, you know, it was growing to something more as people started coming in and started commenting and populating and sharing their pain. It felt like For Eternia had to become something more than one specific show, one specific corner of the fandom, that it had to be a news site for all the fans, for every iteration of not just Masters of the Universe, but She-Ra, Princess of Power. And I realized it was going to be a lot more work, right? It was going to be a lot more work. I didn't see anyone else going to do it. And I figured someone's got to do it. You know, someone's got to keep this community going. And what really touched me at the time was I was in the forums. Oh, who said it? I forget who said it. He was a he-man.org alumni. But because I started changing things, he said that, I don't remember his exact words, but he said that what my efforts was resulting in being sort of a Procrustes for the fan community.
Nice. Yeah.
And that really made me feel like I don't think I deserve it. I don't think it's appropriate, but what a nice thing to say. And it really felt rewarding. For anyone who doesn't know, Procrustes, actually I have them behind me. Procrustes, and Adam would know better, is a large four-armed god that looks like a bearded Zeus, right? That is basically holding Eternia together. He's from one of the very old mini comics. And for someone to say my efforts were very Procrustes-like in trying to hold this fan community together, I took that to heart and I just ran with it and tried my best to become a website for all the fans, for the entire community. I mean, I'm no he-man.org at all. No one's ever going to be he-man.org except he-man.org. But that was really my motivation, and that's what it's become since. When did he-man.org close? November 2023? Could that be right?
Yeah, something like that. A couple of years ago, so that sounds right.
Yeah. So since then, it's just been a general Masters of the Universe, She-Ra, Princess Power site, all content, news, and community.
Yeah.
But you know, Adam, Procrustes has 4 arms, and I only have 2. And that's where Adam comes in here, because I do notice that as I try to do my part to sort of support this community, there's a big chunk missing on my website. I'm providing all the latest news on all the figures and stuff, but it's important, you know, as we move forward, it's important to remember where we came from. You know, it's important to remember to look back. What this whole fandom was built upon, and there's no one better than Adam. I couldn't even try to duplicate his efforts, and I could tell just by you were taking those notes, just by you explaining to me that you were just keeping those notes together for yourself. There wasn't an intention of a website, at that time, and you're just so meticulous and so passionate about it. And Procrustes has four arms, and we're merging here because look, Adam and I were talking, this fandom is really going to get crazy as this new movie comes out. It's really going to ramp up, right? And the closer we get to this movie, there's going to be a lot more people interested in Masters of the Universe, not just people from media, but just general people that are checking it out. And it's such an opportunity to support and grow the fan base. And considering, we have these two pieces, this yin and the yang. I was just hanging out here being a yang, and then I realized that Adam's the yin, And so Adam and I talked about it, and Adam was all for it. And please, you can speak up at any time. I don't mean to dominate this conversation here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it made a lot of sense to me because, like, I don't have the time or the energy to do anything that's current, unless it's something that ties back to vintage. Because I've just doing what I do. That's pretty much all of my free time. There's my work. There's work, family, and then after that, it's mostly Battle Ram Blog. So yeah, that's doing something like a For Eternia. That's kind of beyond my ability, or
and I feel the same way
yeah.
about BattleRamBlog.com and my ability, because you're just a meticulous researcher and you're so interested. It's amazing how you capture just dates of like trademarks and copyrights and so forth. And yeah, so I think we were both looking sort of, through a mirror, and not at our reflection, but our opposites in a way, not personality wise, but in regards to what we provide. And it looked like a really great opportunity where we could come together in a time when Masters of the Universe really accelerates to probably maybe the largest popularity since the vintage years. That we are well-rounded in regards to educating, new fans. And what Adam's going to be doing, which is really awesome, is as he creates new articles and new posts, he's also going to be posting a lead to them on ForEternia.com. So as you go through the actual news page, a new news story might come out, and it's not something that I wrote, it's something that Adam wrote, and might engage you with a paragraph or two and an image or so, and then you can continue reading on his website at BattleRamBlog.com. And what's awesome is, people who are looking for new news regarding the new Masters of the Universe movie, who might not have investigated the history, might say, "Oh, that looks interesting there. Maybe I can learn about something." And then they become like diehard fans in the process. Before they know it, they're in deep, and they're recollecting all their vintage figures, and they're getting all the castle, and they're getting all the books, including, the books you worked on. And then suddenly we got them hooked. And it seems like the best thing we could do, other than have HE-MAN.org back, right?
Right. Yeah, and that even the history, just having that preserved, that does drive new stuff too, because there's the sketchbook series with Origins. If nobody knows about that, who's going to buy Concept, Grizzlor, and Hordak, because they wouldn't know who it was. So you need both. You need the current stuff. You need the history. And I have noticed, from compared to when I started browsing sites 10, 15 years ago, there's a lot fewer He-Man sites now than there used to be. There's a ton of social media about it. Thousands of Facebook threads and groups and things. It's a little bit more chaotic and free for all, and I think it's important to have websites where you got, they have more of an archival quality to them. You can, you kind of, I think it's more community too. It's not just, people who, anybody from anywhere comments. It's people who are, I'd say probably more invested tend to go onto these sites like For Eternia, like He-Man.org, for that community aspect of things. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too. I always wondered if it was just me being old school, me liking the old classic community forums,
Yeah.
versus the Facebook groups, because it is easier to do research, if you're trying to find an old conversation or some old points or topics. And same thing with actual just news and events, and as you can set up categories, and you could just click on a category on a WordPress website, and next thing you know, everything under that category, all the old articles will come up. Try to do that on a Facebook group.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah. So I agree. I think, and I don't know if that's just my age. I hope not. I hope we're right, and this is a better way of doing things, because it certainly seems like, as you said, there's less websites, and everything seems to be following a more social media style. I don't want to go to that world. I don't want to live in that world. I mean, I embrace social media, but there's nothing like, I don't know about you, Adam, but there's nothing like just having some favorite websites that you just check every day or check every other day to see what's going on,
Yeah.
Versus just looking in your Facebook feed to see what's going on.
Yeah. And I'm on Facebook. I've got my page. I even do like mini articles on Facebook that they're kind of condensed versions of my things from my site, which gets a lot of interest. But if you actually if you wanted to look something up that I posted, it's so much easier just to go to the site. It's all there. There's a table of contents. It's easy to find anything. Whereas the social media thing, it's meant to be impermanent.
It is. And unfortunately, with social media, you're more likely to say plenty of rude things as well.
That's true.
Yeah, being, I don't know, but probably with your kind of posts, you probably never get that. So
not really. Every once in a while, somebody will say, well, you're wrong because of X, which is, I don't push back. I'll just say, well, this is why I don't think that's true. But I tend not to engage people. Like, I don't want to turn it into a fight. I just, this is why it's true, and this is the evidence, and I kind of leave it at that.
Do you have one memory of something you got the most heat on? Was there?
I don't know. I don't get a lot of heat.
Okay.
There's a couple of things like I do occasionally. I do videos on YouTube, which are again drawing from stuff that's on my site. But I did one about Zodak and the evolution of Zodak, and because depending on where in his history you look, he could be neutral, he could be a good guy, he could be a bad guy. Depends on the different stories. So I did that, but somebody was insisting Zodak must have always been intended to be evil because he has the Skeletor feet. That was the argument. Which, I mean, I get the logic of that, but based on the original concept art, no, he's supposed to be heroic. Based on Mattel's marketing, they did, at one point he was a bounty hunter. In the first stories, he's neutral. So you need more than like your gut feeling about what the figure looks like. You need like real evidence, historical evidence. Yeah, that was kind of my approach.
I love it. You're a data guy. I love it. So that must come handy in work. So I have way too much passion, Adam. I got way too much passion. So I wish I was a little more analytical like you are. So because it's not always a good thing. So I've appreciated what you did for years, and I'm just, as we're over an hour here, I'm just very excited for the future. I'm excited to be doing this with you. It's such a pleasure to be talking to you today on our first episode, and I love having someone smarter than me in the room.
I'm not smarter than you. I might be a little bit more obsessive about certain things.
Take the compliment. But regardless, I've really appreciated your work. You've helped make this community stronger, and you're especially more needed now than ever since He-Man.org closed. It's there's a few tent poles up still. It's up to us to carry the torch, right?
Yeah.
At least through this biggest time of MOTU, and I love that this movie's coming out. I will be so excited if it's extremely successful and there's movie after movie after movie. It can easily go the other way, and this is, our one shot, and this could be the biggest point of MOTU for the rest of our lives. And the fact that maybe we can help be a hub, right, as best we can for the community, I think we're going to end up doing a really good thing, Adam. So
Yeah.
Hopefully people appreciate it, hopefully too. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Listen, I used to get death threats when I ran for Eternia just for Masters of the Universe Revelation. No joke, I got 2 of them. Yeah, obviously.
Wow.
Obviously, I didn't take it seriously, but they were seriously written. I never took it seriously enough to take it to the police. But I'm like, but of course, I blocked the people, and I'm like, really?
Wow.
over a cartoon?
Yeah. If I don't know, if you're getting angry about it, it's time to step back, let alone threatening somebody.
Yeah. But fortunately that died down, and then what really also helped is there seemed to be more of a universal appeal for its sequel, for Masters of the Universe Revolution. I mean, not everyone loved it, but a lot of people felt it was a better entry, than the first one, and there's a much better fan reaction towards it. So
to me, I think they were both pretty similar. I mean, just in terms of quality, I didn't feel like one was better than the other. It's very emotional story. Like there's it leads with kind of tugging at your heartstrings or making you, kind of that emotional draw to that kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
Which I think that pulls you into it. I didn't, it wasn't like my favorite. I liked it, but there's all kinds of, there's other kinds of storytelling, like the 2000X. I think was more plot kind of driven as opposed to, but a little not didn't have quite that emotional core to it. There's all kinds of different approaches, and then the next one that they do, if they do a 3rd season or if they reboot it later, it'll be a different thing altogether. It's going to keep getting rebooted.
And you know what? Rob David did tease something else animated on the way. He did tease at San Diego Comic-Con last year that there was more future in Masters of the Universe animation. Now, does that mean a continuation of Revolution? I wouldn't bet on that, but so could they be working on an entirely new cartoon? And be honest with you, when I think about it, like if you're coming out with a brand new movie, you probably don't want to come out with a cartoon that's already 2 parts in, right? That starts with, there's now a government, not a monarchy. And, there's a lot of things that have occurred, and people will be very confused coming in if you're pulling in new fans. So if I was Mattel and if I was starting a cartoon, no matter how much I would love a part 3, I would actually think it would be more intelligent to just start something brand new. And get something where fans can see the movie and then jump into the cartoon,
Right.
So,
I would tell fans, expect there's always going to be tweaks to the storyline, to the canon. That was true in '82. They changed the canon multiple times in the '80s, like from the identity of He-Man to how he transforms to whose role is what. That was always changing. It's going to keep changing.
I love this fandom. There's so much of everything. Okay, sir. So I think we've run the gamut. What do you think, Adam? Do you have anything else you want to close before we run off on our merry way?
No, I mean, just support your local He-Man site. I mean, there's Battle Ram Blog, there's For Eternia, Battle for Eternia, but there's others too out there. Lots of great sites. Still not as many as there used to be, but if you support them, visit them, bookmark them, that helps them stay alive.
Yes, good advice. So starting today, if you're watching this podcast, you're going to see the Battle for Eternia logo that Adam awesomely created on his website, on my website as well. And all you can do is, if you want to visit each other's site, you could just click through that image and you'll be immediately taken there. And also, you will be kept up to date with every new post from BattleRamBlog.com. On the ForEternia.com news main feed page. So in case for some reason you haven't checked BattleRamBlog.com lately, and Adam comes out with another great article, you're going to see it listed there. Just click through it, and it's going to take you to his site. If you're not a fan yet, you're going to become one. So it's really good stuff, and we're excited, and that starts today. We don't know when today is as we record it, but it starts today. If you're listening to it, it's live. And we're excited to bring this to you. And we're excited that this is going to be the first of many podcasts. We're not sure about our schedule. Adam and I talked about seasonal. Maybe we'll do more. Maybe we'll do less as things come. But we thought we were always going to approach this from two sides, from a historical side and a contemporary side. And obviously, as you know, Adam is an expert on the historical side, and I'm doing okay on the contemporary side. Not an expert. Maybe I'm an expert because I'm always reporting on it. So I have all this information inside me. So I have recent facts where he's got the historical data. And I think we're going to try to approach topics from both aspects sometimes,
Yeah.
Yeah, we came up with an example. Demo-Man, Origins.
Oh, yeah.
Action figure that we would approach it not just talking about the new figure that Mattel Creations was releasing, but also all the historical story behind it and some of the controversy as well.
Yeah.
Because I know there was some controversy with that Demo-Man,
There was, yeah. And that's an interesting that because that would cover vintage. I mean, technically it wasn't a vintage toy, but that would cover like the early 80s to the 2012 or 20 whenever that the first figure came out to the modern Origins, modern comics. So that it's kind of a obscure figure, but it can cover. You can still talk about it from all different eras.
Yeah, and I can't wait. So expect many more episodes to come. So I think that's it. Adam, you are a gentleman and a scholar. It was a pleasure speaking with you today, and I really had a good time.
Pleasure was all mine. Thanks, AJ.
Yep, and be sure, guys, to visit BattleRamBlog.com and ForEternia.com, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.